Welcome to the Genesis of the Doctor podcast, where we're taking a journey through the time and space of the history of Doctor Who. I'm Joy,
And I'm Tris.
and for today's episode, we're watching the third and fourth serials of Season 6 with The Invasion and The Krotons. I kind of have, mixed feelings on these stories.
Yeah,
Myself.
yeah, kind of same.
The Invasion, I think it had good ideas, it's just, it didn't need to be 8 episodes.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. The Invasion felt like they padded it out 2 episodes longer than it needed to be. Because I feel like if it fit into the 6 episodes most of the other stories around this time have been, it would have felt like it was paced pretty well. But this one kind of dragged on a little bit near the end.
Yeah, apparently it was supposed to be a 4-parter, I think, and then
Huh.
the next story fell through, so they just had to fill it out into 8 because they didn't have another script ready, so they just made it longer. And yeah, you definitely feel it.
Yeah, you definitely do. But The Invasion is also a really curious story to me because I kind of feel like the Doctor himself doesn't do a lot in this story.
Yeah,
I was really thinking back over it, and sure, he breaks into this facility 3 or 4 times and talks to the CEO several times. But ultimately it's Unit and the Russians that actually take care of everything. The Doctor teaches them how to take care of it, where to go, but he himself doesn't actually do a lot.
yeah. I think it was they really wanted to make Unit work and see if people liked it, so they made Unit kind of the central focus instead of the Doctor.
Which was very interesting. I think it's a great idea to do. To set up early on how important the Brigadier is going to be. And I'm happy that he's here as the Brigadier. It's not like it took multiple appearances for him to constantly rank up or anything like that. The continuity, so to say, leading up to this one was pretty good. But I do think it's interesting how it's not really the Doctor and his companions that do the most this story, in terms of effectiveness at stopping it.
Yeah. And then this also did have the guy that played Mavic Chen played the villain in this.
Oh, he did. That's probably why he felt familiar. I couldn't place it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And I think he did a really good job in this story too. I really liked his character.
I really did like him as a villain. I thought he was interesting because he basically is just a tech CEO from today's time wanting more power, more control.
Yeah.
Is basically
Pretty
what
much.
he was. And so he's gonna work with the Cybermen to make that happen. And everyone's just like, don't you see how bad of an idea that is? Oh, nonsense! I thought this through. Okay.
Yep.
If you say so.
His whole plan was to just force them to have emotions, and that's how you defeat the Cybermen.
Which, they've kind of revisited that idea in modern Doctor Who, but it's more restoring their sense of humanity and the horrors of what they are now overloads them and kills them basically. Whereas in the Invasion, it is much more it short circuits them and actually kills them.
Yep. The test one goes off and just murders other Cybermen because he's insane now.
It was definitely weird. Weird.
I do think it's funny that this actor, though, he's 2 times he has now played villains that think they can control either Daleks or Cybermen, and then gets betrayed by them in the end.
That's true. He's kind of typecast
Basically,
at this point.
very similar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We could have stood for 14 and 15 to mention this villain instead of Mavic Chen.
Yeah. I like that at the end, though, that he's he helps defeat Cybermen not because he wants to save the world, but just because he hates the Cybermen.
I actually really liked the focus they put on that. They made it a really dramatic scene, and he was just you're going to appeal to my better nature? No. If I'm stopping the Cybermen, it is not because of my better nature. We know I don't have that. It is because I despise them now so much.
Yep.
And It's kind of funny too because his reason for despising them is basically because they stopped following his orders and thought for themselves, so to say. They cut him out of the plan. His reason for despising them is also like really petty, which like really adds to his character, I think.
And like he was planning on betraying them the whole time anyway, so like,
yep.
Of course they're gonna do it back. I did also find that the animation in this was actually surprisingly good. I didn't think it was gonna look as good.
I did not think it was gonna be very good either, but it really wasn't that bad. And thankfully, there wasn't. It's not like the entire half of the story. Like there wasn't a lot of animations to watch either.
Yeah. I feel like it's almost better than a lot of the other animations.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it's a more interesting like style and everything.
Mm-hmm. True.
And I found it a bit funny how they go back to modern Earth, like modern day Earth, and the Doctor's first thought is we should go see Professor Travers.
That's kind of what I meant with the continuity. Like I kind of liked that.
It's a bit funny though, because like you have other friends, Doctor. Like you don't want to go see like Ian and Barbara. Like Ian could probably help you with the same stuff you need.
Well, I think he was looking for like someone to help, with tech, and I think he probably figured another scientist could help, like another like professor could help. And sure, well, I mean, Ian's a science teacher, but
yeah.
I guess they couldn't get Travers' actor back though.
Yeah, I think they couldn't get the rights to them or something. Although, like, the same people own the Brigadier, so I don't know.
Weird.
Like they had to get the rights from the same people, so I don't know.
Yeah, definitely weird then.
They basically just replaced him with a very similar character, though.
A very similar character who didn't have anywhere near as much screen time, though.
Yeah. And then it was so funny when they're like, they have to rescue him, and then we just cut to a guy explaining that he was rescued.
Yeah, that felt a little weird to me. That kind of felt like they completely cut out the whole scene.
Yeah, I think it was in the script, but they just decided it was too expensive to film, so they just skipped over it.
Kind of funny.
And then the guy that was explaining that was supposed to die in that sequence, so they just had him get murdered by Cybermen moments later. They just
Fair enough,
randomly included that.
Gets the job done, I guess?
Yeah.
Still pretty weird, to be honest, but...
Yeah.
Like, the way they cut corners in this story is kind of curious.
Yeah. Isabel's an interesting character, though. Like, she's definitely very different from... Like if the Travers are supposed to be here, she's definitely very different from Anne.
Mm-hmm. She is pretty different. She is kind of headstrong. She is the reason why someone got killed, technically.
Yeah.
I know, like, it technically wasn't her fault, but, like, it was because of her little escapade that someone did get killed.
Yeah.
But I thought her character was interesting. I liked the way that she bonded with the Doctor's companions. Even, like, differently with each of them.
Then they had a whole exchange about how the Brigadier's anti-feminist, and then Jamie's like, yep, men are superior to women. Whoa.
Thanks, Jamie.
Okay, Jamie.
I like how the other two weren't having it whatsoever. Because, like, I kind of like how the way it's portrayed doesn't feel like it is a product of the time. It feels like a reminder that Jamie comes from an earlier time.
Yeah.
And that the two of them are, like, the progressive, like, the future, the present, like, it's different now. And I kind of liked the way that was portrayed there, because I think in this time, that is, like, pretty good to see.
Yeah, because, like, the Brigadier only didn't want them to go because, like, he wants army people to go.
Yeah.
That would be better with Cybermen.
Yeah, he doesn't want civilians to go out to their death.
Yeah. And then I found it so funny, like, when they're escaping the sewers, Jamie, like, a Cyberman just grabs Jamie's leg, and, like, we know the Cyberman has weapons. Like he just grabs his leg and just waits.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Funny.
It's a little inconsistent what they choose to do with the Cybermen, it feels like.
Yeah. And then they go get pictures, and they're saying, "Oh, these pictures won't work." But like, there's 3 Cybermen bodies in the sewers that you just blew up. You can just go pick one up, and you'll be fine. But they don't think about that.
You can just grab one of those. You don't need photographic evidence when you have like the body.
Yeah. I guess they're just too scared to go back down there.
I guess the doctor goes back down there, no problem later though.
Yep. And then he flips a coin to decide which way to go.
I loved that little sequence, actually, that he did that. That felt like it was unscripted, but just like part of his personality, and I really liked that.
I also liked earlier on when they're getting captured by UNIT and he just sits there and starts playing cards.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. He's like, "Oh well, nothing we can do." Sits down, pulls out cards.
Yep.
I love his quirkiness. Like it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
There were definitely some good scenes in this.
Which is why I think like it's not a bad story. It definitely has some good moments, but like it drags on a little bit, and there's like definitely some criticisms to be had about it. Like one thing I don't really get is the Cybermen's plan of they're gonna like use a frequency to control the Earth, like to mind control everybody, but the mind control is not like what we see in like modern Doctor Who in the parallel world. It's we're gonna like put everyone to sleep. Not quite sleep, but basically sleep, unless people get in with the right thing, to, like the right tech to stop the frequency and kind of like attach it to them. Like that didn't really make too much sense to me, to be honest, because what was the point of that? Was it so there wouldn't be opposition? Because if you're putting in the effort to mind control them, you'd think you'd create the opposite of opposition. Instead of just making everyone incapacitated. You could do many other things more easily to get that same job done. But also the fact that we only ever saw it with, like, military personnel. We never really, like, we kind of saw it. There was, like, a little scene of, like, everyone looking up and, oh my god! And that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. Definitely some parts felt a bit weak. Like, weakly done there.
Like...
It was interesting how, like, the Cybermen don't show up until halfway through the story, which is kind of fascinating.
It's also kind of fascinating that for a Cyberman story, they're not that present at all, to be honest.
Yeah. It's a lot more about Tobias Vaughn
yeah.
than it is the Cybermen, and they're just kind of part of the story.
Which, again, is actually a really good idea, but the execution was...
Yeah.
Out of the 2 Brigadier stories you've had now, or, one where he's the Brigadier, I do think his previous one was a bit better for his character and as a whole.
Yeah.
But I do think this one had some really good ideas taking his character further. But I would have liked to see it executed a little bit better and doing a little bit more in less time.
Yeah, for sure. I also loved the scene of the Doctor running away from the Cybermen, getting shot like a cartoon character.
Yeah, really like cartoony, where he's like jumping with each one, and then he just kind of ducks and covers afterwards. Like that was very cartoony. Yeah. And then when he's like getting up, and he's like, "Oh, but I gotta go. This is important." She's like, "No, let's get your picture taken." He starts like delicately posing.
Yeah.
So funny. He is such a cartoon character. Like, when people say a good summation of Second Doctor is, when I say run, Jamie, and then it's like a Scooby-Doo sequence through like 6 different doors, that like really does summarize this Doctor so well.
Yep. And then Zoe also gets a very good scene towards the end of like getting to show that she's smarter than a computer and she can figure out how to shoot down the invasion fleet.
That's true. Probably also because she comes from the future, but that was actually like really good for her, and kind of like a good follow up to the scene she had early in the story, where I guess I don't know if I'd call it a secretary computer, but basically the secretary computer, she gives it like an impossible equation to solve, or an impossible problem to solve, and like closed circuits because of it.
Yeah, that was good. I loved how it's very relatable that like they hate having to talk to AI secretaries.
Yep.
Like we know we have to deal with stuff like that all the time, and even in 1968 they hated it.
I think what I find so fascinating too, kind of a theme between both of these stories, but more so noticeable here in the Invasion. The Doctor's like very anti-computer, like not specifically like AIs and like robots or whatever, but like the Doctor keeps making little comments about like how much he hates robots or AI or like computers. It's like, oh, I'm not very fond of them. And it's like that feels very curious for the Doctor to be saying.
Yeah, feels like it kind of just came out of nowhere here, and just they're trying to make it into a part of his character now, I guess.
Yeah, like it feels like it might have had like small mentions before, but it feels like this is when they kind of started to drive that point home, and then they keep it up in the next story as well, which feels kind of weird for the Doctor. And I kind of hope they don't keep that up because it feels out of nowhere and doesn't really make sense. Because surely, I mean, yes, the TARDIS is a machine, but the TARDIS is kind of a computer as well, Doctor.
Yeah. With that Zoe scene, though, I did also like how the Brigadier is the one that just says, like, yeah, give her 30 seconds. That's all she needs.
He trusts her.
He's a great character that you can just tell that, like, he understands that other people have, like, skills that just don't really make sense, but he just goes along with it.
Yeah, and I think that's all thanks to the Doctor, honestly. Like, he trusts the Doctor so much, and the Doctor's skills and abilities that if the Doctor trusts somebody, he knows he can too.
Yeah, like how early on, one of the unit soldiers was like, "Are you sure the Doctor can do this?" And he said, "Like, if anybody can do it, the Doctor can do it."
After only having met him one other time before.
Yep. I did also find the music very funny in this because it's just like really upbeat, cheery music, and it just doesn't really feel right, but it also works.
It's weird.
Yeah. Very upbeat music as like units setting up their weapons and everything.
There was also like a lot of really good like tense moments in this as well, where like they're waiting for the missiles to strike in space. But it makes me wonder if they could have done any of that any better.
Yeah.
Because it felt like they worked with what they had and did something pretty good there. But it makes me wonder if there was more they could have done.
Yeah. I did also like what was his name? It was Tobias's like security dude. Parker or Packer. I love their little like their dynamic between the two of them.
It was
how Packer's
good.
just like he's really stupid, but like Tobias Vaughn still needs him.
Yeah, and then Packer just dies.
Yeah. Because it's what's got to happen. All the bad guys have to get shot by Cybermen.
Yeah. On one hand, I feel like Tobias dying in kind of an unceremonious way. On one hand, I feel like I wish it was better. On the other hand, I like that it was something so normal for him because you know he wanted more.
Yeah.
And
I think it was a good ending.
Very good storytelling that he didn't get something bigger. He didn't die in the explosion that blew them all up or something like that. He didn't die in any way that could be really perceived as a hero. He died in a way he probably would have deemed pathetic because it was like everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the last time we will see Cybermen until the Fourth Doctor now.
Okay. I think that's fine. We had quite a lot of them here with the Second Doctor, so I think it's okay to give them a little bit of a break.
Yeah, because I think that the producer that takes over for the Third Doctor just doesn't like Cybermen, so he never uses them.
I mean, I would have liked the Third Doctor to encounter all the iconic enemies, but that's okay.
Yeah. I guess that does technically mean that this is probably the only time we see Unit dealing with them in Classic Who. Because, like, Unit starts to not be as present once you get to the Fourth Doctor.
Not quite as much. I mean, like, they're still around. I don't know if they did. I mean, we know Unit has at least this encounter. I know in a Capaldi episode, Kate Stewart throws down one of the a Cyberman head to the Cyberman, saying, "Oh, you left this on one of your last attempts, on one of your earlier attempts." So, but it's like a very classic-looking head that looks like it's from this era. So it might be literally this story that was getting referenced there. I'm not sure if there's any other ones.
And then technically the Brigadier becomes a Cyberman, but nobody likes that storyline.
Nobody likes that little plot point.
Nope.
Nobody should, in my opinion. That one bit's a little disrespectful to him, I think.
Yeah. And this was also the first story with Terrence Dicks as a script editor, and he will be with us all the way until the end of the Third Doctor era now.
Okay.
And then he also writes a few stories. I think after he leaves, he writes a few stories.
Oh, okay, so he doesn't, like, double up.
Yeah. He might double up a bit, I'm not sure, but I know, like, I think he wrote Brains of Morbius, which is a Fourth Doctor story, which is one that people know about for lore reasons. But yeah. I didn't have much else for notes on this story.
I think the only other note that I have for the invasion is I like how well characterized the Brigadier and unit as a whole already is, like how well established it is, and I hope to see like good continuity with that, like every time they appear, like more than just the Brigadier maybe being recurring, you know. But
yeah,
we'll
I know that.
I know he's the main recurring one.
I know some of the characters in this do return in the Third Doctor era.
Good.
Because there was even a funny story where like one of the actors was supposed to be like playing one of the Cybermen, and then one of the people for one of the unit soldiers got fired because like they were showing up late and stuff. So then that Cyberman actor replaced them, and then he got to become a recurring character.
That's funny.
And he was like a very last minute situation there.
Damn, that's pretty good.
And apparently Isabel was considered to be the companion in season 7, but then that didn't happen.
Interesting.
But they were thinking about having her come back and be like with the Doctor the whole time.
That would have been really cool, actually. I would have loved to see a photographer wanting to see the universe.
Yeah. And then I did find it funny in the story, too, where Jamie just kind of disappears at the end. Where Fraser Hines was on vacation for the end of the story.
Yeah, Jamie just kind of disappears in a way that doesn't make sense. And I gotta be honest, the Professor kind of just disappears, too.
Yeah.
Like, I noted
here,
just like,
didn't do much with him.
Like, did I just, like, miss a line where they said what happened to her, or was I just not paying attention when he got, like, killed off screen or something? Like, he just kind of stops appearing. And that doesn't get explained, right?
I don't think so. I know, like, I think Jamie was supposed to have, like, gotten shot in the leg when they were trying to escape the house. So maybe Watkins also got hurt at that time, so he's just, like, in the hospital or something.
But that's my point. Like, I don't really think they went into that, so it just kind of felt like a drop point. Other than, you know, oh, well, he's under the Doctor's protection and care now. It's like, yeah, but I don't remember many scenes of them together. There was, like, the initial scene together when they rescued him and, you know, trying to figure out how to stop the Cybermen, and then he kind of just stops appearing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, good story, but poor execution, in my opinion. Could have been a lot better in a lot of ways. But I did enjoy watching it, at least.
I feel like this one would benefit from having, like, a trimmed-down version of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Just, like, essentially what they're doing with, like, the colorizations, where it's just, you know, you cut it down in half, and then it works a bit better. Although I doubt they would ever do that, just because this has 2 animated stories in there, and I don't think they want to do that with the colorizations.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it would be a good one to do, just because, like, it's the first unit story, obviously. So
true. That makes
maybe they will at some point.
For that reason alone.
Yeah. But then I guess to move on to the Krotons, I feel like this story is just like it's fine, but there's nothing unique about it.
Yeah, that's my main takeaway from this. Is nothing really from this story felt unique, and that really bothers me because from the first episode, I thought the direction this was gonna go was the Krotons were not actually real. I thought we were gonna learn it's like an like the whole machine, the whole process is like automated. The beings that ran it either are long dead and it's just an automated process, or it was actually created by somebody else on the planet. Like they're not actually aliens. Like, I thought they were going that route. And I was kind of disappointed when they actually showed the Krotons, and they're like this, like, big, bulky robots.
Yeah.
That are basically scientists testing lab rats. Once the Krotons physically appeared, the story got significantly less interesting. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Apparently, the writer wanted them to be more like crystalline humans, sort of.
Okay.
But then the prop team just made bulky robots instead. Which is, I guess, okay. I mean, we've had a lot of stories that feel like very, very similar to this one.
Yeah.
Even just like the Dominators feels ultimately pretty similar, because it's the same thing where they're like, there's radiation outside. What are you doing outside? Like, no, there's no radiation out there.
And the people are not quite peaceful, but they're very inexperienced with trying to deal with problems. So they have no real idea how to stop them. Yeah, it is very similar to the Dominators. You're right.
Yeah.
And the Dominators was more interesting than this because they played a more active role.
And the Doctor's very whimsical again with his umbrella at the beginning.
I love the umbrella scenes. They're great. They're great.
And he's so angry that they vandalized his favorite umbrella when he used it to save someone's life.
It was honestly pretty funny. It's little moments like that. Like, little moments like that are what make these stories so great, because it's giving you so much more of the Doctor. The companions actually had some pretty great moments here of, like, showing just how smart Zoe is versus how Jamie is in comparison to them. I think was also really well done and really interesting. But it's the main character growth and focuses that these stories get that I think are the best parts of them, because everything else I feel like kind of falls apart.
Yeah. I did also like when they go meet the Gons for the first time, the Doctor's like, leave this to me, Zoe, and he just walks up and says, like, we're friends, and then spears in their faces. I think you need to maybe say a bit more than that.
Yeah, you might need to say a little bit more than that, Doctor. It's pretty silly. I don't know if that would have helped you at any other point.
Yeah. But yeah. It was a very basic story. It's just very similar to a lot of the other ones. Apparently this was originally pitched to be in season 2 as well, and then it was rejected. And then it got brought back 4 seasons later. In season 2, apparently it was rejected in season 2 because they felt like the Krotons were too similar to it was the mechanoids in the chase.
Damn.
I guess they're like vaguely similar.
I gotta be real. I think this would have been more interesting as a season 2 story with the first Doctor and those companions.
Yeah.
I think not to say this wasn't a good story with what we had here, but I think those characters would have better benefited from the experience and the kind of growth that could have come from this story specifically, as opposed to what we had here, where it kind of just reiterated what we already knew about the Doctor and Zoe and Jamie, because it's done a good job the whole season thus far iterating that to us.
Yeah.
Like, conveying that to us. It's already been done well, versus back then in season 2, it would have been nice.
Yeah. I also have a few notes here that, like, it was the scene where Zoe asks to use the Doctor's suspenders, and he's, like, very angry at the idea of giving them off. Very loud, no! I can't give those to you.
So funny.
Like, there's good scenes in this, but it's just a very basic story, I think, is generally the issue.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it would have been nice to have more going on. Was very, very annoying seeing the Gons be like, oh, yeah, no, we can't beat them with sticks, but with fireballs and slingshots. Now, hold on. It's like, okay, guys, please. Like,
Yeah. I think there was like an interesting idea in there though that like they were purposefully not told about like chemistry because that would be able to defeat the
yeah.
Krotons. So like they were very purposely not good with chemistry.
Mm-hmm. I
And the
guess
Doctor just kind of convinces them to kill the Krotons, I
the
guess.
well, I mean, they were being killed by the Krotons too, so it makes sense to why.
Yeah.
But I think what also kind of bothered me is they kept reiterating how these people are learning that they're just slaves to the Krotons. Like they kind of knew it already, but having it reiterated that
Yeah.
they're basically just that, and they're getting killed too. But what kind of bothered me about it is I never, other than like using the learning centers, they never really like went into their society much. Like, how do they
Yeah.
live? What do they do? In what way are they slaves other than from the learning center? Which was like one aspect of their lives that they were even saying is something only like the students do. So what does everyone else older do? Like, are they like physically doing things for the Krotons? Like,
Yeah. Like there were some characters that like some of the Gons would go to like certain characters and say like you work for the Krotons. What do you do for them? And then like we don't really get an answer.
yeah,
Just like the one guy's like I clean up around here and that's all he does, I guess.
so it just didn't really give a good idea of like what their society is like, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I felt these people could have been better uh, presented in a way that makes them more interesting, because they really, you could have replaced them with any of the quote unquote pacifist races that we've had throughout Doctor Who history at this point, and it wouldn't change the story, because there's nothing that makes
Yeah.
these people unique.
I did kind of like the Krotons though, in that like their ship's powered by mental energy, so that explains like why they're taking
Mm-hmm.
people every year or so.
Mm-hmm. I do think the ideas behind the Krotons are interesting, but like I said, I was disappointed seeing they were actually like real creatures that were in there,
Yeah.
because of like how built up the mystery of, are they even real? Are they actually in there? How built up that was. I really thought we were gonna learn they're not.
Yeah. It could have been like the Macro Terror almost,
yeah,
but like not actually having a monster, just it's people. It's the
like
people
people
in charge.
experimenting on people. Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Oh, like I don't know. Like, there's so many other ways the story could have gone that I think would have made it more interesting. That what we got in the end was a bit disappointing. It was a fine story, like you said, but like it didn't really
Yeah.
stand out to me as anything particularly good.
Yeah. And then we did also get the first appearance of the hostile action displacement system here,
Yes, the hats.
very briefly.
And
It
was
is a bit
explained
funny.
well, too.
Just it's just funny to think about that though, because like just a few episodes ago, in the Mind Robber, they had to like leave existence because they were scared about lava, and then now we find out that like if the TARDIS is in danger, it will just teleport away.
Well, he did mention
like-
if he remembers to turn it on. So maybe it was
Yeah.
after everything with the Mind Robber, he's now turned it on.
Yeah. And then in Modern Who, he turns it off on purpose.
yeah, that's true.
'Cause the
He's
14th
always
Doctor
landing somewhere
mentions that.
dangerous.
Yeah. Although the 11th Doctor, like the submarine episode, it was mentioned in that one as well.
Yep,
That's why the TARDIS left them behind.
yep. So I like to imagine every now and then the Doctor's like, there's like a blinking light on the TARDIS console. He's like, you know what? I should really turn this on. Maybe we'll have a little bit of a safer time. Turns it on the
Yeah.
very next time it inconveniences them. All right, well, that's a good reminder not to turn that back on. Turns it off. 300 years
Yep.
pass. What's this flashing light for again? Like, I kind of feel like that, because of how infrequently it comes up.
Yeah.
Although, it's
But yeah,
interesting how here the HAD's turned on and it just kind of moved a few feet away. As opposed
Yeah.
to in Modern Who, it can go anywhere in time and space. And then eventually it
Yeah.
comes back.
And then like in Wild Beyonder, like, it didn't return until the villains were defeated.
Yep.
Very notably. And in this one, it just teleported a few feet away. Luckily, the Krotons never noticed that it just teleported, though. They thought they destroyed it.
I guess they had no... The one traveling around outside had no, like, speakers, no microphones and audio.
Yeah, and I guess they did note that, like, they couldn't really see very well outside.
Yeah.
Because, like, they were used to darker environments.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't feel like was very conveyed super well from the sets, unfortunately. The sets didn't seem too dark, but I understand why. Like, that's because, like, if you make it too dark, people can't see. But
yeah,
I think they should have leaned into just how dark it was a little bit more, because that felt like a weird aspect when they started using it.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't have a lot of notes on this story, because, like, it's just very basic.
Yeah, I think as a whole I preferred the Invasion, but I don't think either of these were, like, super strong stories. They were fine, but I don't think they were particularly more than fine.
Yeah. And then this one, The Krotons, was Robert Holmes' first script, and we'll get a lot of stories from him.
Okay.
Here's hoping
to go up from here.
Yeah. I know I think when the fourth Doctor takes over, I think he does script editing for a little bit there as well.
Okay. Okay.
But then, yeah, he writes a lot of stories.
Right. Okay, well, we'll see how that goes.
Yep. But then I guess we can move on to news, because there's been a lot of news again.
Oh, yes, there has.
Much like last time. Basically, we got a lot of stuff about the new season of Doctor Who.
Yes.
Most notably, we have the premiere date, which is April 12th. So it's just about a month away right now.
Worth noting,
and then,
probably, we'll do the same thing as last time, we'll dedicate an episode to it when the season's done. So we're not going to be talking about the episodes each week as they come out.
Yeah. And then we got, like, multiple cast announcements. Most of them were actors I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't remember their names. Although we got Alan Cumming is playing Mr. Ring-a-Ding, who's, like, the cartoon character.
Please be Land of Fiction. Please be Land of Fiction.
It would be funny.
It feels like it, because I don't know if you saw, there was also a German trailer going around.
Yeah, I've seen that.
After. So beyond the trailer we already saw, we also saw in a different trailer this cartoon character turns the Doctor and Belinda into cartoons as well. And that feels like something that could only happen when you're playing with fiction.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's going to be an interesting episode, though, just, like, to see, like, how long they'll be in the animated world and stuff.
Yeah. Especially since, like, we also could tell from the trailer, Mrs. Flood is not in that story. She's in the one where it's, like, the international...
Eurovision.
Yeah,
Eurovision in space. I think it might even be, like, the announcer dude is from Eurovision. I've never watched it, though. But
yes, he's the actual host. He's the actual host, people were saying, and I think the plot there is, like, he was just cryogenically frozen and then, like, brought out for this. That's so funny. Man is just playing himself in Doctor Who.
Yep. I did find it funny, though, that, like, after Russell T Davies, like, hyped up who the cartoon character was voiced by, it's just like, well, Alan Cumming was in one episode of Doctor Who before, and that's what we're referencing. Well, I guess technically, apparently, I think he was, like, in the running to be the 9th Doctor, so, like...
Oh.
He's a longtime friend of his. I think he was, like, even maybe offered the role, and then it was just like, I don't want to move to a different country.
Yeah,
because, like, he's not in Wales. So then, he didn't get the 9th Doctor part.
Remind me which episode he was in. Because he was only in one episode.
He was...
Which one, though?
He was the king in... The Witchfinders.
Oh, that's right.
Which was 13th Doctor. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, so that was also, like, a rather recent story, too, comparatively.
Yeah.
Like,
and then
it's not like
was, like, having it up with, like, it's a returning voice from Doctor Who, and, like, I guess.
I guess. He's
not
definitely
really
not going to be using
important.
the same voice, that's for sure.
Yeah. I know him mostly from Spy Kids. That's where I know him from.
Okay, that's funny.
That's what I grew up with was Spy Kids.
I wonder if
But
I
yeah.
wonder if anything he does in this story will be recognizable from that. If he channels any energy from that, because I could see it
I
more
mean,
so than when he played the king.
he's a very cartoony character in Spy Kids for sure.
That's fair.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to this season. I feel like we still don't really know that much just from the trailers and stuff. But
So
yeah, I'm
I
looking
feel
forward to
like
it.
one of the other big things that I saw people saying is the giant spider that we see a few times.
Yeah,
I don't remember the name people used, but a bunch of people were saying it is like very directly. It's like an African god of like tricks, if I remember correctly. So it's
yeah,
like an African trickster god, um,
yeah,
which is fascinating. So clearly, we're playing with a lot of gods again this season,
yeah.
and I'm
My
really
first thought
looking forward to it.
when my first thought from that was, is it like gonna tie into like Planet of the Spiders from the Third Doctor's era? Although I don't know much about that story. But I
Either
know,
that or the
like,
Rachnos from Modern Who, but
yeah, I know the Third Doctor's final story has him fighting giant spiders. So
mhm. Yeah,
maybe it
well,
ties into that. I don't know.
we'll see. We'll see. Because it definitely feels like we could get some more classic references throughout. And I mean, we also know
Yeah.
now from these several trailers that the premise of the season is Belinda is stuck with the Doctor. We're going back to the classic idea
Yeah.
of the Doctor is not in control of the TARDIS. And
Yeah.
the companion is not really wanting to be with him, wants to get home, but is traveling with him because that's all they can do. We, outside of 13's companions at first being that, and then like 3 episodes in getting their choice to go back home and being like, wait, no, I really do want this. I
Yeah.
do want to come with you. And Dan getting the same exact kind of thing through Flux. This is
Yeah.
kind of the first time in Modern Who we have a companion that's not a companion by choice.
Yeah.
Since the trailer also goes in, like, you hear 15 being like, oh, like, girl, you are starting to enjoy this. Like, I think the whole, it sounds like it's going to be, like, the whole season arc, or a good portion of it, instead of, like, the pretense for the first couple episodes.
Yeah. Kind of fascinated to see like how that's gonna work out.
Mm-hmm.
Like why can't the Doctor bring her home? Because he can
Mhm.
control the TARDIS relatively well now.
Yeah, which god is controlling the TARDIS now, if not Sutek?
Yeah.
Did Mrs. Flood grab onto the end of it now? Like, what is this?
We'll say that the web planet, like I forget what it was called, but like the web planet like spider thing that's gonna come back. That one's been on the TARDIS ever since the web planet, and that's
Yeah,
what the story's gonna be. That's why they referenced the web planet last season.
God. I'm excited, though. I'm honestly pretty excited. It looks really good. The production value of it looks really high. And the VFX looks pretty
Yeah.
good, too, from what we saw in the trailer. So, while the previous season was pretty good and looked pretty dramatic, they're making this one look even more so. So, it has me really excited for what they've been cooking up here.
Yeah. I think something that's worth noting though is that like it's kind of weird that there's like no like returning monsters at all yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like people think that there might be Daleks because like somebody gets shot in one of the trailers and it kind of looks like a Dalek effect, but that might not. It could be like anything because like Cybermen use like the same effect anyways, so
Yeah,
like they can just
I
use
think it's a
anything
fake
doing
out.
that.
I think it's a fake out for Daleks. I don't think they're
Yeah,
actually going
it's
to
like-
be here in it.
I feel like they would show them in the trailer if there were any like returning monsters.
You
and
would want
they
to hype
haven't yet.
that up, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
it's-
granted,
like
they
the
didn't show
13th Doctor's
Sutek.
for the 13th Doctor for the first season they didn't have any returning monsters, but it's a bit odd that they did it for 2 seasons. I feel here.
That is true. That is true. Like typically with Doctor Who, what we tend to see is the first season of a Doctor is made for like the first season of a new Doctor and a quote unquote new showrunner, is typically at the time to introduce new fans. You don't want to bog them down with too many things that they think they are missing out on from older seasons. Things that make them feel
Yeah.
like they can't watch it yet. Sometimes they get around that. oftentimes they have when it comes to like the Daleks, for example, but not always. I think 13 was actually very good for that reason, though, because it was very refreshing, where someone can jump in and not feel like they're missing anything. Because, it's the Cybermen in the 3rd episode. Remember the last time I encountered the Cybermen guys, and recounts all of it? Like, do you have that a bit with, like, the Daleks? With, like, I mean, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, David Tennant, in their first seasons, each of them encounter a Dalek at some point. But I think the Dalek is explained well enough to a new viewer there, because you have people doubting it. You either have people doubting it, so you get the Doctor really driving home what it is, that it works well as an introduction story. And I think Doctor Who's gotten pretty good about that, of if they have anything classic in that like early season that's like meant to be for new fans, they do a really good job explaining it for them, that they never would have guessed that it was a classic villain.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like Sutekh was kind of that in this.
Yeah.
In the past season, because we had not watched the Sutekh story, like the original Sutekh story at that point. But they did a great job setting up who he is, what he is, and if you really want to go see, there's the Tales of the TARDIS and whatnot in the UK at least. So they've clearly put in an effort to, even if they are bringing back something classic, they're gonna explain it well. You're right, though, that in this season we haven't seen any of it. Though I feel like most of what we've seen are from, like, 4 episodes. Like, I feel like most of the scenes can be equated to specific episodes, and I don't think we've seen a look at every single episode of the season yet.
Yeah, I know people were saying that it seems like... Like, there's even been some leaks about stories, and it kind of lines up that, like, everything we saw in that trailer is just the first half of the season.
Damn. That's exciting.
I feel like they would kind of tease a returning monster, like, if there was one, though. They would at least tease it, and then I feel like they kind of didn't. So it's
as long as marketing is better than it was in 2017 when they had to hype up Capaldi's final season. And because I was so upset that one of the first trailers for that season, or maybe it was like the here's what to expect from this season after the first episode, they have the whole like big dramatic in the flames and he's back, and they show like John Sims' silhouette as the Master, and I'm like, why would you tell me that? That's awful. Now I'm gonna go all season expecting it. It's terrible. As long as marketing is better than that, like, I'm totally happy being surprised. I'm fine with a tease. Don't outright, like, confirm a big twist like that to me beforehand, man. Like, come on.
Yeah. I suppose technically, like, in the scene where Kate Stewart's, like, in the basement of Unit or somewhere, where, like, there's things locked away in different places, maybe we'll just show, like, a Dalek very briefly.
I think that's a great place for cameos.
See them for,
typically
like, a
been
minute.
the place for cameos.
Yeah. I heard some people saying that, like, maybe the Master will be locked down in there because they had the tooth.
Oh, that's true.
Like, I feel like that'd be a weird way to establish a new Master, unless you brought back an older one.
We still don't know who took the tooth, after all. It may not be Unit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also feel like that scene of Kate down there in, like, the dungeons, basically, feels very Torchwood to me. Like, because Torchwood had things like that, so that's kind of curious.
Yeah. And then there was also, like, the Ruby scene where, like, there's monsters. Seemingly, like, another Ruby-centric story where she's dealing with a weird monster.
Yeah, that makes me wonder if the Doctor's even going to be in that story. Or if that's
going
to be another Yards kind of thing. Except she's
I think people were saying that was going to be, like, a Dr. Light story.
Okay.
And then I guess since Belinda's stuck with the Doctor on the TARDIS, I guess it's probably not going to have Belinda either.
That I could see that being a story where it's not quite a two-parter, but it's like a setup where we see like Ruby's working with Unit and who else is with Unit, almost like giving us the experimental version of War Between Land and the Sea, of a mostly Unit-focused story where the Doctor's not really in much. We might get like messages from the Doctor, like, on the TARDIS, like, communicating with them, like, you need to go do this, you need to figure this out, send Ruby, you need to You you need to solve this kind of thing because we can't get there right now.
Yeah. And it just makes sense because, like, in past seasons, the Dr. Light stories were always like they were filming it at the same time as another story, so that's why the Doctor wasn't there. So it makes sense to have it be like, the Doctor and his current companion are not there, so we're gonna just have a story with his previous companion.
I hope it doesn't lead to a Ruby all alone kind of story again. Because I think I want to see Ruby working with like Mel and Kate and like actually getting character growth with these other characters that know the Doctor. I think that would actually be really, really good for her.
Yeah.
The other thing that's curious, if I remember correctly, the guy that she's talking to in that trailer is the guy that like at filming has been spotted and people say is meant to be her character's boyfriend, and apparently has a role in a different story where he's like, I don't think he's prime minister, but he's like someone like really important in government later on. Like there's like posters of him and things like that.
Yeah, I've seen some leaks about where apparently it's supposed to go towards the end of the season.
Well, it'll be curious.
I don't think we want to say too much about that.
No, of course. This is like mostly speculation, but I don't think we should drift out of speculation.
Yeah. But yeah, I've read up on some leaks of where things are supposed to go, apparently. But yeah, he's in that story and then apparently supposed to also show up later.
Okay. Well, at least we know he survives that story, most likely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this new season.
It's gonna be a fun one, and it's only about a month away. So,
yeah, coincidentally, our April 12th, we will be releasing our final Second Doctor episode on that same day.
Oh wow!
Because we only have two episodes of the Second Doctor left. So yeah,
wow,
works out. We'll be finishing the Second Doctor and starting the Third Doctor and a new 15th Doctor season at the same time.
Oh, it's gonna be so exciting. That's gonna be a great time.
Oh, and the release time is also very different from last season, where it's midnight Pacific time now, and 8 a.m. in Britain. So
and 3 a.m.
3 a.m. for us. That works for me because like I normally go to sleep at 4, but
oh my gosh, I could not. No, that's gonna be a case of like Saturday mornings. I'll wake up, have breakfast, and get together with my group of folks I'm gonna watch it with, whether physically in person or like in a Discord call, and we're just gonna watch it together as soon as we're all like up and around. And that'll probably end up being noon, which means I'll have to go my home mornings on Saturdays not checking social media because people will be spoiling.
Yep. I guess really the only issue for me is that sometimes I try to go sleep a bit earlier because we record on Saturdays.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's weird to me just that like I feel like the 60th anniversary specials had the perfect release time, and then they just don't want to go back to that. Like it was like
I don't know.
2 p.m. for us, like 7 p.m. for Britain, and I feel like that was like the best time to release it. And then they don't want to do that anymore.
Like, I understand why they changed it from what it was for the season 1, because most people in the UK complained about it releasing at midnight.
Yeah.
But now they're complaining that it's releasing too early. Even though it's the same day as it appears on cable. It's just later. Yeah. It appears on TV later that evening as opposed to early in the morning. But, I don't know.
I feel like this time is just kind of not good for anybody, just because like spoilers are going to be out there on the internet at midnight, and like if you don't wake up and watch it at 8 a.m. in Britain, then spoilers are everywhere. You can't look at social media.
Yeah.
And then if you don't stay up late for us, then same thing, and it just doesn't work out well for most people.
I guess we'll see how that goes. I imagine if there's a lot of criticism about the time slot, they'll probably change it again in the future. Not for the season.
Yeah.
This season's going to stick to this schedule, but
yeah,
they might change it in the future again if people don't like this one either.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we'll see how that season goes.
Yep. Soon enough.
And yeah, so getting towards the end here, so I'll just mention that we do have a Patreon. So if you would like to get into our Discord, it's just $1 a month. You get into the Discord, and you get early access episodes. And for $5 a month, you can watch live as we record these, and we'll have a text chat, and you can tell us about how the Invasions and the Krotons are actually the best episodes of Doctor Who, if you feel like. And for our next episode, we will be watching The Seeds of Death, which is a 6-parter that is fully surviving, and The Space Pirates, which is another 6-parter, but that one, only episode 2 is surviving.
Oh,
and then
that's
the rest
gone, then.
Are all gone. Yep. And I mentioned last time that The Space Pirates is regularly at the bottom of polls. I forgot to mention last time, though, that that's specifically polls of Second Doctor stories, so this is like...
Okay.
No, everybody dislikes this. Out of Second Doctor stories, this is normally at the bottom, is The Space Pirates.
Okay.
So
that's not as bad,
it's not.
then.
Yeah. I don't know about overall for like all of Doctor Who where it slots in, but yeah. And then Seeds of Death is the Ice Warriors are coming back for that one.
Ah, exciting. Maybe they'll be done better this time.
Yep. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
And then, yeah, after those two, the War Games will be the next episode. So we're almost done with the Second Doctor.
Wow. All right. That's sad.
I'm gonna. On one hand, I'm gonna miss him. On the other hand, I'm very excited to see the Third Doctor because I know he's very beloved.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Second Doctor's also been very beloved, but
yeah, Shudigatwa's favorite is the Third Doctor, though. Apparently, he really liked it.
In part for the outfit.
Yeah. But yeah, as a reminder, make sure to watch The Seeds of Death and The Space Pirates before our next episode. You can find those on... Well, you can find Seeds of Death on BBC iPlayer or 2BTV. Space Pirates you'll just have to find somewhere else. There is a loose cannon reconstruction for the 5 missing episodes. And yeah, if you support us on Patreon for $1 a month, you can gain access to our Discord, as well as early access to episodes. I've been Joy. You can find me on social media at JoyContent.
And I've been Triss. You can find me on social media at ToonTriss.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.